Part 106. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1054. This bear-like creature is in a bad mood today. As a highly gifted genius in the Tianhe forces, he is confident in his own strength and status. But a year ago, after the outsider named Jia Yan arrived, his confidence disappeared. Jia Yan's strength was also revered back then, but after a battle with him, he actually defeated him, a highly confident and semi-star genius. After that, his status in the Tianhe forces plummeted, and even the high-level gifted lords at the same level as him looked down upon him. Of course, there are also happy things. After Jia Yan became famous in Tianhe, he insisted on traveling. However, he never returned. His status slowly recovered during this year. But he is a creature that holds grudges. He secretly ordered the servants that Jia Yan brought with him from the rural star area to treat them well. As a result, he heard rumors that Xiao had been having a hard time in the past few years. Not very good. Unexpectedly, Jia Yan, who originally thought he would not come back, actually came back today. How could this not frighten him? Don't be afraid. This Jia Yan has been away from the force for so long and has not enjoyed the cultivation in the force. His strength may not be as good as mine. If he dares to cause trouble, I will just settle the grudges from a year ago. Thinking that Jia Yan had been out of power for a long time, he was lucky if he didn't die. Maybe his strength wouldn't have improved at all. The ruthless look on Tianbiwu's face flashed away. He felt that even if Jia Yan didn't come to him, he would still have to find a reason to settle the grievances of the past. After thinking about it this way, he felt better. But before he could put his idea of causing trouble for Jia Yan into action, a terrifying creature with wings suddenly appeared outside his cultivation star. This creature has a slender mouthpart and 6 legs, especially the pair of front legs, which are sharp and look like they are not easy to mess with. He is none other than Jia Yan's true form, the giant mosquito, who has not been seen in person for a long time. Tianbiwu, come out here. Jia Yan said this using the power of his brainwaves to the outside world without any cover-up of hostility from outside the star. Humph, Jia Yan, you think I'm afraid of you? Tianbiwu, who was practicing on the astral body, suddenly lost his expression. Then he stretched out his bare body, flew out of the training room, and quickly rushed towards Jia Yan's location. The two great sages face each other far away in the sky. The difference is that Jia Yan's expression is indifferent, while that Daibiwu is extremely dignified. It is unparalleled. You, a high-level genius, actually did something to humiliate my servant. This is somewhat unjustifiable. Now give me an explanation, otherwise I will not let you go easily today. Jia Yan did not mince words, but directly stated his purpose. Haha, Jia Yan, do you still think you are the genius you were back then? Huh, even if you were, I am not the same person I was back then. What if I say no now? Tianbiwu's eyes sparkled, and he shouted sternly at Jia Yan. He was extremely excited, like a red-eyed person, not like a highly gifted genius at all. Jia Yan, on the other hand, looked indifferent. Of course, he had seen a lot of things in the world in this year. He had killed several even half-stars with high talents. Now, even if he is just the real body is still afraid of a mere venerable. What's more, he defeated this guy easily back then. If he improves now, can he make as much progress as Jia Yan this year? Joke. You said no. Jia Yan shook his head, then swayed slightly. Come to attack me? Looking for death when Biwu saw Jia Yan's body swaying that day, he felt a sense of crisis coming over him, but he roared without fear and was about to launch a defense. But what he didn't expect was that before his defense could be deployed, a voice appeared behind him. Okay, I don't have time to play with you. Now apologize to me, otherwise don't blame me for not holding back. Jia Yan put one of his front feet behind Tianbiwa's neck, and the other front foot was like grabbing a child, encircling Tianbiwa's entire bare body, making him unable to move. Roar! Tianbiwa was frightened, roared angrily, and wanted to struggle, but he was even more horrified to find that he could not break free at all. Tianbiwa was stunned. Tiantisu, who was watching the battle secretly, was also stunned. There were also several elders who came with such expressions. They were all medium-talented and semi-star level beings. Before they knew that Jia Yan wanted to find trouble with Tianbiwu, they all smiled. They didn't care about such junior matters. In short, both parties should have a sense of proportion to avoid harming their lives. But all the senior officials who couldn't help but wanted to know Jia Yan's current strength came over to take a look. They all knew that Jia Yan was still a venerable man, but his strength had become deeper and he must be even more powerful than before. But Tianbiwu is also stronger, and they still think that this battle can show how strong Jia Yan is now. But what he didn't expect was that Tianbiwu was captured by Jia Yan so easily, just like a child. Okay, now the elders are watching. If you don't want to embarrass yourself even more in front of them, just apologize to me. Jia Yan's voice rang in Tianbiwu's ears. This voice shocked Tianbiwu's whole body, and he honestly did not dare to resist anymore. He has understood that the gap between himself and the current Jia Yan has widened again. Before, he could at least be able to compete a little. When Jia Yan held Tianbiwu and flew all the way to the training planet where he was before, Tianbiwu apologized to Xiao with a red face and fled away. There were already countless onlookers. Jia Yan's strong return this time almost caused a sensation. Thank you, Master. Xiao seems to be a little different from before. She doesn't know what happened during this year, but she has become more respectful to Jia Yan. It's okay, we are friends, there is no need to talk so much between friends. Jia Yan smiled, and then saw that the other party no longer had an arrogant demeanor, but instead had a face full of flattery and compliments, and couldn't help but feel uncomfortable for a while. To be strong, you have to pay a lot. Although everyone respects you now, everyone's change of attitude is not normal in Jia Yan's opinion. At least it makes him uncomfortable. After a casual chat with Xiao, Tiantisu arrived. Jia Yan, you were separated from us that day. I'm very worried about you, but I have something to tell you now, otherwise you might not be able to handle it if it comes. Tiantisu's words surprised Jia Yan. It turns out that a group of people died in the North Regiment back then, especially a nephew of a high-ranking member. As expected, a large-scale search was carried out in the nearby starry sky. The Tianhe forces didn't know why, but they were actually listed as a key observation target. Tiantisu came over to talk to Jia Yan first, saying that he left Tianhe forces at the right time. People from the Northern Regiment came over and asked several times. If they knew that Jia Yan was returning, they might come again. Tisu hopes that Jia Yan knows this first and can deal with it when the time comes. Our Lord Tian Rongguang of the Tianhe force was actually invited by them to attend the commemoration ceremony. Isn't it okay not to go? When Jia Yan heard what Baituan had done, he couldn't help but feel unhappy. Lord Tantisu, I will tell you the truth. Jia Yan suddenly said these words. I won't stay long when I return to the Tianhe forces this time. However, I caused the trouble for the Baituan forces, so I will solve this matter for the Tianhe forces. Jia Yan said lightly. You solve it? How do you solve it? You have to know that in their power, there are two people who may be more powerful than Tian Rongguang, a high-end talented semi-star powerhouse. Tiantisu couldn't help but feel uncomfortable after hearing Jia Yan's words. First of all, Jia Yan actually said that he would not stay in the Tianhe force for a long time. Doesn't this mean that Jia Yan, who was trained by the Tianhe force, would still not be able to get it in the future? Any benefits? Secondly, I feel that Jia Yan is exaggerating. No matter how powerful Jia Yan is now, he is still just a venerable person. A venerable person is nothing more than a joke in front of a highly talented and semi-star strong person. This is still a joke. Want to solve the troubles of the Baituan forces? Unexpectedly, Jia Yan's next words made Tian Tisu almost stare in disbelief. What Jia Yan said is, "Haha, Elder Tian Tisu, it's like this. You should have heard of the name Moke. I have some friendship with this Moke. I will ask him to take action. The Baituan will definitely give Moke a little face. Bar. Hiss, but that, Mok, who is fighting against a team of half-star experts by himself. The Baituan force is located in the dark area at the southeast corner of the Tianhe force and the Lakiao force. This dark area and the dark area where Tingtian Pavilion is located are not far apart, but they do not belong to the same dark area. Therefore, Tingtian Pavilion in that dark area has not yet reached out to this dark area. In recent days, the most powerful force in this dark realm, the Dark Force Baituan with two highly talented and semi-star level beings, held a very grand memorial ceremony. This ceremony commemorates the destruction of a certain fleet that the Northern Regiment sent to rob it a year ago. Of course, Baituan would not say this in its external propaganda. He only stated that it was an ordinary caravan that was destroyed by an unknown fleet. They must remember this incident and at the same time hunt down the murderer. In this name, they invited the leaders of several major forces, including Tian Rongguang, the chief talker of the Tianhe force, and Sibila, the leader of the Lakiao force. Today, we want to mourn the death of several friends. They made great contributions to the transactions of several major forces near us. Now that several of our major force leaders are gathered here, it can be considered as a face to them who died. A huge yellow monster muttered on the high platform, "Here, I hope that the murderer of our brothers can be found and brought to justice this year, so as to appease the spirits of these brothers in heaven. No need to look for them, I killed them." Just after he said these words, a faint voice suddenly sounded above the heads of a group of powerful creatures. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1055. Who? The genius creatures in the entire ceremony were all extremely shocked. Before the sound sounded, they didn't feel any creature above their heads at all. But when the sound suddenly sounded, didn't it mean that everyone present was not aware of his arrival? The opponent's hidden strength is evident. Especially those few high-end talented semi-star level beings were extremely shocked. Their strength is already considered to be top-notch creatures, but it is also intriguing that they did not notice the coming person before the sound sounded, because this being is either a top-notch strongman who is good at this, or someone who is stronger than them. Genius. All the creatures looked up and saw, high in the sky above the star, a dark creature with metallic light all over its body, standing so proudly above all these creatures. He looks like a bird. If there are humans on Earth here, they will understand that he looks like a very common ominous bird on Earth, a crow. This crow was extremely huge at the moment, and faced a group of high-level geniuses from nearby forces without any fear. "Who is your excellency? I just said that you killed these brothers in my northern regiment. I also ask you not to cause a fire and don't make such a joke." One of the senior officials of the North Group who presided over the memorial ceremony was a highly gifted half-star creature. At this moment, seeing Jia Yan floating above all creatures, a flash of anger surged on his face. You must know that they are using the topic this time to blackmail a group of forces, especially the Tianhe forces. They got some kind of genius some time ago and they have been very active recently, so they must suppress them. But now that the matter has reached the final stage, how come a stupid guy suddenly appears and says that he killed the person himself? Of course, the opponent's strength is definitely not weak, otherwise he wouldn't be able to reach the top of everyone without him noticing. I said I killed the person, so I killed him. The crow monster flew above the sky, looking proudly at the creature below, as if it didn't take him seriously at all. The highly gifted half-star creature in the Baituan who presided over the memorial ceremony had his expression slightly stagnant, and then a fierce light flashed. You must know that Baituan has been in the nearby star field for a long time. Their strength is sufficient, and there are not many powerful forces around them, so they are rarely looked down upon like this. After carefully looking at the flying creature, the high-ranking member of the Northern Regiment paused. "Your Excellency, you are so brave. You are only a second-level pass, a mere second-level pass, and you dare to come to our Northern Regiment to cause trouble. You are so brave." He saw the strength of the flying creature and almost became furious. Just when this creature was about to jump up and kill the creature flying in the sky with one blow, another high-end talented semi-star colleague beside him suddenly stopped him. The creature that wanted to attack Jia Yan stopped moving. He knew that his colleague would not make such a move casually. I saw the half-star creature with the same high talent, a look of confusion flashing in his eyes, and then he looked at the flying creature carefully for a few more times, and then asked with a startled look. "I dare to ask your Excellency, you are a moccasin?" The flying creature above is of course Jia Yan. Now he wears battle armor and transforms into the image of Mona's bird monster again. "Yes, I am MOK," Jia Yan said calmly. His voice shocked all the creatures below. Then there was someone who was proficient in space talent. He quietly explored the surrounding subspace, and then his expression changed drastically. They saw a man-made black hole in subspace. You must know that it is a deterrent-level weapon that can detonate a huge force like the disciples into cripples. Having a panoramic view of all the expressions of the creatures, Jia Yan's expression remained unchanged. "I work alone and bear the burden of others. When I passed through the star field, the fleet of your Northern Regiment actually came to rob me. Of course I killed them to pieces. Now I have come to surrender. Tell me, what do you want to do to me, MOK?" Although Jia Yan said surrender, his words and actions did not mean to surrender at all. When he finished speaking, a slight wave of attraction spread outside the star, which made him even more attracted. The high-ranking officials from various forces below all had a sudden surprise in their hearts. "This is the man-made black hole. This, Sir Moke, I think we have some misunderstanding." The high-level creature of the Northern Regiment that wanted to attack Jia Yan before now understood Jia Yan's identity. He cursed himself in his mind. Why was he so impulsive before? No wonder when he saw Jia Yan's face just now, he felt like he had seen it somewhere before. He didn't expect that it was the crazy MOK who had become popular in the entire Central Star region recently. This lunatic's talent and combat prowess are so overwhelming that almost no one in the entire genius battlefield believes them. Some people have already said that he may be more than a top genius. Unexpectedly, a being with such terrifying combat power is also a fiery-tempered person who throws himself into black holes at every turn. Another dark area force of the Disciple Regiment, which is not much different from their Northern Regiment, has a gap with MOK, and the entire force destruction. A few days ago, Moke had a head-on battle with the last remaining high-end strength team of the Disciple Regiment. As a result, Moke completely destroyed the entire team of semi-star level beings without using the means of self-exploding black holes. Destroy. He, the Baituan, didn't want to mess with such a scary guy. Is there a gap? I also think it is a gap, but in fact I did kill those creatures you are mourning. You tell me, what should I do now? Jia Yan pretended not to accept the other party's kindness, but was aggressive. Your Excellency MOK, our Baituan is willing to let go of this hatred, so don't take it to heart. The two high-level talents of the North Regiment were half-star level. When they spoke, even the senior officials of several major forces on the side were dumbfounded. Especially Tian Rongguang from the Tianhe force. As a half-star with the same high talent, he thought that he might receive better treatment when he came to the Baituan force, but he didn't expect that he would not have a good face at all. But now I saw that the two masters of the Northern Regiment, who had no good feelings towards me at all, actually showed great respect to the Moke who was at the level above, and their eyes almost dropped in shock. The semi-star level is just like the previous levels. It is also divided into 4 small levels: beginner, intermediate, high, and peak. Although among these 4 levels, the division of strength is not so clear, and there are often even people with the same talent, but the higher the level, the enemy will be killed, but generally speaking, the higher the level, the stronger the strength. The 2 highly talented half-star level terror masters from the North group have both reached the mid-level half-star level. Although the top leaders of the Tianhe force and several other forces are also highly gifted, they have only entered the half-star level for the first time. That's why they suppressed him to death. But that Moke in the sky was not even a half-star level, let alone a junior or senior level. Facing him, the 2 great masters of the Northern Regiment were like a mouse seeing a cat, they almost bowed to him. Very well, you, the Northern team, are willing not to hold me accountable for my fault. Jia Yan, who was in the sky, seemed very satisfied after hearing that the 2 masters were unwilling to hold him accountable. But before the 2 masters below could show their joy, his tone suddenly changed again. Since you, the Beituan, are unwilling to pursue the case, I will tell you how many major responsibilities I will hold you accountable for. Sir Moke, do you want to hold us accountable? Why? Tell me, I, MOK, was busy with my affairs, but you subordinates actually intercepted me that day, which prevented me from completing the production of an artificial black hole on time, which almost affected my subsequent battle with the Disciple Regiment. You said, this is a big responsibility. Also, your Beituan investigated my killings several times and talked about the murderer everywhere. Now everyone knows that it was me, MOK, who killed the person. What will happen to my reputation in the future? I, MOK, am not from your Beituan. People, it would be too unpleasant to be called a murderer when you go out in the future. Tell me how to resolve these 2 responsibilities. If you don't give me MOK justice today, I won't leave. It really can't be done. No matter how hard I try to damage my reputation, I will let you Beituan and that fugitive I will kill you all and prove my innocence. Oh my God. What Jia Yan said was too unreasonable. As for the previous point, it is said that he was worried about making a man-made black hole, which is probably nonsense. With his strength, if he wanted to destroy those weak subordinates back then, wouldn't it be time for him to blow his breath? How much time could he be worried about? As for the latter point, that's even more ridiculous. If he hadn't jumped out now, who would have known that he killed the person? Even the reputation is almost a joke. What kind of reputation does MOK have now? Everyone is calling him crazy. Compared with the title of murderer is no better. What's more, destroying Beituan can prove innocence. Where to find the truth? Here, Mr. MOK, I apologize for your loss. Let's do this. If you want our Beituan to do anything, please tell us directly. The top leaders of the 2 northern regiments finally understood that MOK came here just for blackmail. But they couldn't give in. Although they seemed to be facing a junior level, in fact, as neighbors, they understood how terrifying this MOK was. Even the disciple group was wiped out, and they, the northern group, couldn't afford to offend. Very good, then I will send you a list. These are some supplies that I am in short supply of recently. If you can help me a little bit, I will be merciful and will not hold you responsible. Jia Yan said calmly, and then sent a piece of information from the Zhinao terminal to the Beituan external liaison terminal. They are all high-grade minerals and energy, this. The 2 high-level officials of the Northern Regiment almost vomited blood when they saw the list of items sent by Jia Yan. You must know that the value of these items is not low. But for the sake of power, they endured it. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1056. The attraction of Jiayan's two black holes has spread over the entire star. As long as the two leaders of the Northern Regiment say no, the next step will be the result of war. Novel www.lw. They can't do it without bowing their heads. Okay, Sir Moke, we agree. The two leaders wanted to cry but had no tears. Very good, then I, Tingtianga, will be waiting for the arrival of Baituan's cargo spaceship. It seemed that he had benefited, and Moke was in a good mood. You, Baituan, are my good friends in Tingtianga. You can be a good friend in the future. Move around more. Yes, yes. The two leaders said this with almost crying smiles. It means walking around, and now it seems that it will probably have to be turned over. It's impossible not to cry. Ahem, okay, these dead brothers do need to pay homage, but it's inconvenient for me, so I won't disturb you. Jia Yan pretended to cough in embarrassment, and then looked at the crowd of strong men below, as if he had just seen him. Hey, Lord Tian Rogwang from the Tianhe force, and Lord Sibilla from the Lakiao force, you also are you here? I happen to have something to ask you too, so I would like to come over and talk to you. All the creatures were stunned for a moment, and then looked at Tian Rongguang and Siba in the crowd of strong men. It turns out that these two forces are related to Mok. The people around him thought of this at the first moment, and even the two masters of the Northern Regiment seemed to feel that Moke might not be the murderer, but came to help these two forces. Okay, Lord Moke, it's my pleasure to meet you. Both masters flew up from the stars. Jia Yan met with them. Compared to Tian Rongguang, who was at a loss, Zasila was much calmer because he understood that he was doing it because of his daughter. Zibala worked for Jia Yan, but he already understood it. Even when Tingtianga became more and more popular, he even told his daughter that if she could do well in Tingtianga, if she could become a high-level person, it is helpful for all Lakiao forces. Now, as expected, Jia Yan came to the Baituan forces to help him get out of the siege. Moreover, Moke has expressed his stance personally, so in the future, the Liqiao forces will have a real relationship with Tingtian Pavilion. Maybe others will not dare to look down upon them, at least Baituan will definitely not dare to provoke them again. Jia Yan and Sisla had a few words of banter, nothing more than the fact that Liqiao had offended many people last time and whether they were doing well recently, etc. On the other hand, Tian Rongguang couldn't speak. It was even the first time for him to see the madman Moke in front of him. Mok's appearance made him, a highly talented and semi-star level being, Sci. Because next to their 2.5 stars, this sub-level being not only did not have the slightest hint of timidity, but instead showed a touch of condescension and spoke like a senior. This made him, who has become a great the creatures that had been the leader of the force for a long time felt uncomfortable. But you have to endure the discomfort. Didn't you see that all the forces in the Northern Regiment bowed their heads to this junior level? Sir Tian Rongguang, you don't have to think too much. The reason why I called you this time is because I have a relationship with Jia Yan from your influence. He has been practicing with me recently and he also said that he hopes that I can have a good relationship with your influence. If before calling you to come out with me is unnecessary, please forgive me, senior. Well, Jia Yan. When Rongguang heard the name Jia Yan that day, he was stunned. You must know that he has not received the news from the Tianhe forces about Jia Yan's return, so he is very surprised to hear the news about Jia Yan now. Of course, as a creature with an extremely fast brain, he understood it immediately. I see, Jia Yan is cultivating in your power. Lord Mok, thank you for calling me just now. Tian Rongguang smiled slightly. After Tong understood the relationship between them, he was also a little emotional. He originally thought that Jia Yan was dead, but he didn't expect that he would take refuge in a supporter like Mok after disappearing. After chatting with these two powerful executives, Jia Yan said goodbye to them. In fact, he took off his armor again and returned to Tianhe's forces in the form of a mosquito. Tian Rongguang happened to return coincidentally. When he saw Jia Yan, he specially thanked him a few times. Master Tian Rongguang, Master Tian Tsu, and Xiao, you all know that I have joined Tingtian Pavilion now, so I am going back to Tingtian Pavilion. As long as you are willing, I will still be the leader of the Tianhe forces in the future. If you need anything from the forces that Yan has joined, please feel free to contact me. Jia Yan, you now have a better destination, and of course we will bless you. Moreover, your cultivation star in the Tianhe force will never be removed, and Xiao will always be your servant. You can come back anytime you want. Go ahead. Goodbye everyone. One day, Jia Yan said goodbye to everyone in the Tianhe forces. The trouble caused by the Tianhe forces has been completely settled, especially since the Tianhe forces also agreed to retain Jia Yan's disciple seat, which is a good thing for Jia Yan. After all, he is actually grateful to the Tianhe forces. Of course, he did not explain that he was a madman Mok, after all, such things were still a secret to Jia Yan. Jia Yan piloted the battle armor and entered the subspace and flew back to Tingtian Pavilion. What he didn't expect was that just as he was walking on the front foot, an extremely terrifying star-level creature rushed to the Tianhe force in a hurry. When he learned that Jia Yan was gone again, he was almost depressed. It's really hard to see Jia Yan. He should have gone back to Tingtian Pavilion. If I had known, I would have been waiting for him in Tingtian Pavilion. Oh, hurry up now and go back to Tingtian Pavilion. Hurry up and say maybe he ran away again. This star chased Jia Yan extremely depressed. But what he didn't know was that Jia Yan's speed was to fly in the subspace for a long time while driving the battle armor. Even a star-level flying speed for long distances would raise eyebrows. Therefore, the star-level being chasing after him in a battleship seemed to be chasing after him at all. Not going to Jia Yan. But this is another relatively long trip. During the trip, more than a month had passed since the clone's side, and he and the old monster arrived at the northwest corner of the Starlight Domain. Of course, Jia Yan changed his perspective and focused his attention on the clone. Sir, we are almost there. I can feel the cells in my body shouting, this is my hometown. One day, Jia Yan came to the bridge of the battleship where the old monster lived. He immediately spoke to Jia Yan very excitedly. Well, it's good to be here. Jia Yan nodded, and then looked at the scenery outside the universe. To be honest, Jia Yan's clone didn't feel any difference. He has seen a lot of scenery in the universe, and he has seen it in various places, but he always feels that it is the same everywhere. Of course, when he returned to the land of the solar system, he also felt a similar sense of familiarity, but that feeling was probably psychological. Haha, sir, I can remember it, over there. Suddenly, the old monster pointed in a certain direction in the starry sky. In that starry sky, two stars are entangled together, forming a binary star system. And in this place of the double star system, there seems to be a civilization developing here, with many aircraft flying around in it. Jia Yan drove the super-fast ship and flew there. It is actually a very common phenomenon for double stars or even three stars to be together in the universe. It is even more common than single star systems in the solar system. Of course, the so-called double star system does not mean that the two stars are really stuck together, but most of them are separated by each other. It's at least a few tenths of a light year away, which is actually very far for living things. However, such a distance is not that far for stars. The gravitational pull of both sides affects each other, causing a large amount of energy to be ejected, and even rotating and circling each other. Maybe some of them will slowly approach and finally collide. Of course, I don't know how many years it will take. The binary stars in this area are separated by 0.5 light-years. In the center of the two stars, the interstellar matter actually condenses together due to the mutual gravitational pull of the binary stars. The result is a large area suitable for sleep and habitation. Sir, haha, this is my hometown, I remember it completely. The old monster and Jia Yan drove the super-fast ship to the place between the two stars. He was already incoherent and almost going crazy. After all, he had been thinking about it for thousands of years, and now he really saw the hometown he had only seen in his dreams. Of course he would lose control. Jia Yan was worried that he would die from high blood pressure. Of course, the old monster won't have high blood pressure. After all, he is a strong creature. Okay, where is your hometown? And where is the place where the essence and blood is? Don't tell me that I spent so much energy here, it's fine as long as the essence and blood is no longer there. Jia Yan reminded him calmly beside him. Sir, I didn't lie to you. My hometown is in the interstellar spaceless place over there. The essence and blood are also there. The old monster's heart trembled slightly when he heard Jia Yan's cold words. You must know that although he said that he was going to die of old age, in fact, as a long-lived race, he still has at least dozens or hundreds of years of life. He didn't want to just come back. In his hometown, he was really killed by Jia Yan. Looking at the direction he pointed, Jia Yan looked there. That is the place with the most interstellar matter and the most globular stars in the entire interstellar space. It seems to be the most complicated there. And there are many battleships there. Sir, I have read a lot of information during this period. Combining the fragments of my memory, I have come up with general information. There are two major families in that piece of interstellar matter. One is the family of my family's enemy back then, and the other is related to my family had very good relationships back then, and we could go to them and ask for help. The old monster quickly explained the power relations in the interstellar material-rich area. He understood that Jia Yan didn't care about the civilization there or the specific conflicts between the forces. For Jia Yan, a person who was destined to be a passerby, the only real thing was to quickly reach his destination and then return to the arms of Orion. After all, there are still a lot of things in Orion's hands that Jia Yan needs to take charge of. Well, then let's go over and find the place where the blood essence is. You once said that the place where the blood essence is stored may be controlled by the enemy. As long as we can find it, no matter whether we knock on the door or something, we will. It depends on what you think, come as fast as you want. Jia Yan's indifferent remarks made the old monster shrink. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1057. Genius remembers in 1 second to provide you with wonderful novels to read. Jia Yan didn't have time to delay. Although he arrived at a brother's territory in the Orion Arm, he wanted to take a stroll, but time did not allow it. The old monster didn't have much to say. With murderous intent, Jia Yan moved forward and entered the area with a lot of interstellar matter. Here, it is almost a paradise for creatures. It is indeed the starlight realm. The diversity of life here is outstanding. Jia Yan piloted a superfast ship and flew in the starry sky. After seeing the warships on the left and right and the creatures flying in the universe, he couldn't help but sigh. This starlight domain should be the immigration star domain to be precise. Most of the creatures come from the Orion Arm, so the shadows of the creatures in the Orion Arm are very deep, but some come from outside the starlight realm, and they look similar to many outside creatures that Jia Yan has seen. This results in the biodiversity of this place. The spaceship in front of you, get out of my way quickly. I belong to the Kaiming family. Just as Jia Yan and the old monster were waiting in line to pay the toll at a certain checkpoint, a roar of brainwave power suddenly erupted from behind. At the same time, the aircraft lined up around them moved out of the way one by one, seeming to be very familiar with this situation. Lord Jiayan, the Kaiming family is my enemy family. But after hearing this voice, the old monster's face suddenly changed, and then he said this to Jiayan, who was indifferent to the side. Oh, I see. Jiayan nodded, then drove the battleship and parked it without giving way. The families who were going to be at odds with each other in the future no longer had to give face to each other now. Assholes, are you outsiders? I told you that I am from the Kaiming family, but you dare not give way. Get out of here. The brainwave power master behind him was angry. The other aircraft quickly cleared the way. He was very satisfied. However, seeing the superfast ship driven by Jiayan refuse to give way, the brainwave power master was extremely annoyed. You must know that he now has a female creature of the same race in the battleship. As a male, he naturally does not want to be so embarrassed in front of the person he cares about. Give you another 10 seconds, otherwise you will bear the wrath of me, Chi Minghong. The other party shouted angrily in the battleship. It doesn't take 10 seconds to get out of here. Before he could finish his words, Jiayan had already handed over the driving rights to the old monster and flew out of the super-fast ship. The brainwave power was used lightly, and a terrifying power from the level of the Supreme Being suppressed the entire battleship. Buzz. The whole world seemed to be frozen. Don't underestimate the Venerable, even if Jiayan is only using the control ability that ordinary Venerables can use. In fact, this kind of control is already strong enough. It's just that the level of Jiayan's contact is getting stronger and stronger, which makes him feel respected. The master is not strong enough, but in fact, the venerable level can be regarded as an ordinary master in the universe. At least it was powerful enough in front of the master of this brainwave power releaser. Your Majesty. The creatures in the battleship were suppressed by the power. He was only a high-level starry sky, one level lower than the venerable, so naturally he was no match at all. What about the venerable? I am a member of the Kaiming family. You, a venerable, dare to go against my Kaiming family. If you are sensible, let me go. Otherwise, you will have a hard time. It seems that the master of brainwave power still refuses to admit defeat and speaks harshly to Jiayan. The Kaiming family. Jiayan's eyes flashed with strange light, then he nodded and let go. Haha, you are wise, otherwise I, the Kaiming family, would crush you as a venerable person to death. It would not be easy. The master of brainwave power was happy in the battleship. Originally he thought he would see some strong man who wouldn't accept his tricks, but he let him go obediently. It seemed that he was also afraid of his family background. Did you see that your husband and I have a very powerful family? In my eyes, this kind of venerable person is just a flower. I'm scared to death. The creature laughed loudly at its female counterpart in the battleship. But when he saw the female sibling's expression, it was as if he had seen a ghost. How, The creature was about to ask something, but he felt his head swell in size, and then with a loud noise and expansion, he was directly controlled by some force in the dark to explode. Murder! The female creature shouted inside the battleship. But Jiayan here flew back to the super-fast ship without any concern. Yes, the scene just now was caused by him. He understood the style of the Kaiming family, and it seemed that it was not unpopular to be against them. Since Jiayan wanted to finish the work here quickly, he might as well start now. Sir, I just checked the Kaiming family. There is actually a strong person from the second level who has survived since my time. Like my race, he is a long-lived race. His strength is unfathomable. You can follow me now. Isn't it a bit too much for them to turn against each other? The old monster met Jiayan, and then said with some hesitation. Fine. Jiayan shook his head, then piloted the battleship and flew to the toll office. Okay, the customs clearance fee is 500 starlight yuan, right? This is 1000 yuan here. The extra 500 is a small tribute for causing you trouble. Jia Yan gave the heaven-level creature guarding the toll booth 1,000 starlight domain universal money, and then passed through the place while the other party was dumbfounded. It wasn't until Jia Yan left in the superfast ship that the Tianatian-level creature trembled and recovered from the shock. In fact, his toll office was originally one of the sites established by the Kaiming family. Now he saw a Kaiming if a member of the family was killed, of course he needed to report it as soon as possible. And Jia Yan had already driven the superfast ship with the old monster, flying towards the place in his memory. Sir, that planet and that planet are where I grew up. It seems that these two planets were my family's property back then, but now. The old monster looked at the two habitable stars in the starry sky, then shook his head and sighed. His family was originally engaged in business, and their business was very large, otherwise it would not have been possible to trade with the great empire and obtain blood essence. Well, if you want those two planets, you will get them after a while. Of course, if the Kaiming family dares to come to trouble me. Jia Yan nodded lightly, and then said something that seemed to indicate something. The old monster shrank his neck and looked at Jia Yan. There was something he had to say. Sir, your strength is indeed strong in the Orion arm, but it is different in the Starlight realm. The Venerable's strength is much stronger than that in the Orion arm, let alone the second level. You were defeated at the Kaowo defense line. In this outer star field, it is only the lowest level, and some powerful sub-levels may be far beyond your imagination. His implicit meaning was to warn Jia Yan not to underestimate the powerful people in the Starlight domain. I understand. I have seen more powerful people in the outside world than you. Jia Yan glanced at him, revealing a meaningful meaning in his words. You've seen more than me, the old monster was startled. Then he didn't dare to say anything. He didn't know yet that Jia Yan had told the great empire that he had been to the outside world, otherwise he wouldn't have persuaded Jia Yan like this. Seeing how confident he is now, the old monster has nothing else to say. He just hopes that Jia Yan will not find out that he is not strong before the battle that is bound to happen next. Anyway, he is an old guy and is about to die. Death in battle in his hometown can be regarded as another form of return, so he is not afraid. Okay, the battle should still take some time. You should quickly find the place where the blood essence is. Don't worry, sir. After all, thousands of years have passed and my memory is a little blurry. Under Jia Yan's urging, the old monster slowly recalled something, and then together with Jia Yan, they slowly started searching around the two habitable stars. And unbeknownst to them, in the land of two habitable stars, a graceful and luxurious female creature suddenly heard about Jia Yan's killing of the Qi Minghong. What? My son was actually killed by a gangster. This female monster had a mouthful of old blood, almost gushing out. Then she became so angry that she flew up and rushed towards a certain place on the star. Husband, our 57th son is dead. He was killed by someone. You have to make the decision for him. The female creature was crying and almost making a fuss. Not long after, on the habitable star, a battleship team numbering 200 suddenly rose into the sky, each one filled with killing intent. The people on the livable planet who had seen a similar scene all understood that the ruler of the Kaiming family on this planet was angry, and it seemed that someone was going to be in trouble. But this has nothing to do with them. Under the rule of the Kaiming family, although this planet is not bad, it does not have much freedom. In particular, they cannot speak ill of the Kaiming family, so that when the battleship takes off, they only dare to secretly when discussing, they dare not speak openly. I hope the Kaiming family will suffer a loss once, otherwise they will think that everyone is easy to bully. Some creatures secretly think so, but the Kaiming family has almost overwhelming power in this interstellar material zone, and it is almost impossible to encounter a disadvantage, so this can only be said to be a thought. But what they didn't expect was that the person the Kaiming family was going to deal with this time was someone who could make them suffer. At this moment, Jia Yan was still searching the starry sky with the old monster. "Sir, I remembered that asteroid is where my family's essence and blood are stored, and there are many treasures of our family in it." When Jia Yan and the old monster came to several interstellar objects, the old monster seemed to suddenly think of something, and then pointed at the largest one among the several interstellar objects and said excitedly, "Over there." Jia Yan was equally happy, and then looked over. It was an asteroid with a diameter of 100 kilometers, and it was densely covered with clouds and liquid. But what he was a little confused about was that there were actually lights all over the asteroid. Is it already occupied by another organization or individual? Just like what the old monster said, the Kaiming family has long known that there is the treasure of the old monster family. Mobile phone users, please visit Redding for a better reading experience. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1058. Don't worry, sir. Even if the Kaiming family knows that our family's treasure is hidden there, there is no way they can get this treasure. Because our family used the space system to place the treasure in the subspace. If there is no powerful space talent coming over, it is impossible to get the things inside. Moreover, the treasure system also has a self-protection mechanism, and they cannot lock the treasure of the location. After receiving the old monster's assurance, Jia Yan's face looked a little better. Then he unfolded his space talent, observed the outside of the star for a moment, and then nodded. Sure enough, there is a very unique space around this star. It seems that the space people who helped your family arrange this treasure place were extraordinary. Jia Yan's words gave the old monster a pause. You must know that in his memory, he vaguely knew that the creature that arranged the treasure seemed to be a semi-star existence with space talent. Jia Yan, the venerable man, could actually see the other person's face at a glance. Unusual. To know that the other party is a half-star, this is beyond his imagination. Of course, Jia Yan can understand the principle of the opponent's arrangement. Even if he were here, he could easily break through the opponent's arrangement and get the treasure. But what is here now is a clone, and it is simply impossible to do it without using a black hole to force it. So he thought about it and asked the old monster. So what do you think, how should we get the treasure now? But don't worry, I only need the essence and blood for what's inside, and I'll leave the rest to you to rebuild the family. Thank you, Lord Jia Yan. This treasure requires my family's bloodline to open it. But now that thousands of years have passed, I don't know if that method is still useful. As soon as the old monster finished saying this, Jia Yan didn't even respond to him. But Jia Yan frowned slightly, and then looked towards the distant sky. It turned out that above the two ecologically habitable stars, a fleet of warships flew quickly. Humph, it seems that your enemy family has arrived. Old monster, you go down and find a way to enter the treasure land. There is no venerable on that asteroid. I think you should be able to deal with it with your strength. As for the coming fleet, just hand over, give me. Jia Yan's eyes flashed with a horrifying murderous intent. Okay, sir, be careful. Seeing Jia Yan's confident look, the old monster had no reason to believe that Jia Yan could resist that huge fleet. He flew out of the speeding ship and landed towards the star where the treasure was. Jia Yan docked the speeding ship farther away. After all, he had to rely on it to get back to the Orion arm, so it couldn't be damaged here. Traveling through subspace, he came to the front of the rapidly approaching fleet group. Your Excellency, I wonder if you know the whereabouts of the person who killed my Kaiming family. Jia Yan stopped in front of the fleet, and a voice sounded from within the 200 warships. The one who made the sound was a creature with a similar appearance to the one Jia Yan had killed before. At this moment, he was looking at Jia Yan in front of the starry sky, with a solemn expression in his eyes. As a sub-level existence, he has certain sensitivity to any powerful creature. Although there was a mere venerable person in front of his fleet, and he could easily kill several of them just by sneezing, but he was a little wary of the venerable person in front of him. So even though he had already determined that the other party was the murderer of his son, he did not explode directly. If the opponent is really strong, then it is okay even if he does not pursue the case. He has too many heirs, so many that it doesn't matter if one or two of them die. It is not worthwhile to fight a strong person for one of them. After hearing his words, Jia Yan, who was blocking the front of the fleet, glanced over. His gaze was like a sharp arrow, which made the level creature vaguely feel that Jia Yan could see through him from a long distance. Is that person just now really a member of your Kaiming family? Oh, don't look for him. I am the one who killed him. If he disrespects me, I will kill him. Jia Yan said lightly. Be bold. Kill me, a direct descendant of the Kaiming family, for being so arrogant. You are simply seeking death. One by one, the soldiers in the Kaiming family's battleship roared in rage. You must know that the Kaiming family is one of the two major families in this land of interstellar matter. They are almost among the top. How can any strong person dare to be disrespectful to the people of the Kaiming family? Not to mention that this creature dared to kill a young master of their Kaiming family. This was no longer a situation that could be solved by the death penalty. Not to mention that now that they have come to investigate, the other party still has such an attitude, which is simply treasonous. My friend, our Kaiming family has no grievances against you. Why do you want to kill my son? Even if there is some verbal gap between my son and you won't kill him directly. The eyes of the Kaiming family's second-level master were almost burning with blazing anger. You must know that as one of the Kaiming family's second-level masters, he has never had a very good temper. It is extremely rare for him to be able to endure it now. Is that your son? I have said that if your son disrespects me, I will kill him. If he is your son, you are also guilty of lax discipline. Now tell me how you should compensate me. What Jia Yan said was almost irrational. After hearing this, the guards and soldiers of the Kaiming family couldn't hold back anymore and wanted to cut Jia Yan into pieces. The second-level person who was talking to Jia Yan couldn't help it either. Although the son didn't care, he did care about his face. The more the other party talked, the more aggressive he became. It was clear that he was looking for trouble. Asshole, I'm shameless for you. I'm just a venerable person. Now let me show you that people from my Kaiming family are not so easy to kill. The second-level powerhouse shouted, do it. Then he flew out of the battleship himself, and a group of battleships around him also had venerable level beings flying out. Each battleship also aimed at the place where Jia Yan was. Jia Yan's avatar looks like an earthling, but in front of the huge creatures and battleships, he looks completely weak, almost as small as dust in the universe. The other party also believed that this arrogant venerable man would die directly in a salvo of fleet main guns. Under the starry sky, the old monster had arrived on the treasure asteroid and was quickly traveling to certain places on the planet. Master Jia Yan, please don't let anything happen. The old monster raised his eyes and looked at the battle scene in the starry sky. When he saw so many battleships and strong men, his heart jumped suddenly. You must know that he has lived for thousands of years and has never seen so many strong men in his life. There are even sub-levels inside. Can Master Jia Yan, a venerable person, be able to deal with them? No matter what, I just need to do what I can do right now. Even if I die, I will die in the family's treasure land, or even destroy it so that the Kaiming family can't get it. He felt furious in his heart and started searching faster. But there are also strong people on this asteroid. At this moment, they discovered the existence of the old monster and rushed towards him. A small-scale battle was about to begin. Of course, the battle on an asteroid is absolutely trivial compared to the battle in the universe. A barrage of artillery fire aimed at Jia Yan's tiny earthling body and opened fire suddenly. In the entire starry sky, hundreds of cannons fired almost instantly, and the light of distant stars was blocked. A venerable man, die. The strong man from the second level of the Kaiming family who was flying in the universe looked at the venerable man who was instantly submerged in the light of the gunfire, with an almost ferocious look on his face, and laughed happily. This is the fate of those who dare to offend the Kaiming family. This venerable man had a high profile before, and he thought he was such a difficult being to deal with, but when the artillery fire came out, he seemed to have no time to hide, and he was just overwhelmed by the artillery fire. It's basically a silver gun with a wax tip, it looks fake. Haha, I thought I needed to take action. It's ridiculous that this kind of creature can cultivate to the level of a venerable one. He smiled and was about to return to the battleship. The next moment, his expression suddenly froze, and then he turned back. But he saw a small creature with an indifferent expression walking out of a torn space outside a battleship not far from him. Then the faint brainwave power of this creature was slightly activated, and all the creatures in the battleship died immediately. Subspace talent. This second-level creature of the Kaiming family was suddenly startled, and then retreated, almost retreating into the battleship. No, go. This is a subspace talent, a terrifying talent that is even better than space talent. A strong person with this kind of talent can usually kill enemies across levels. No wonder he dares to be so arrogant. This strong man from the Kaiming family is fairly well informed and knows the subspace talent. At the same time, the subspace talent he mentioned has become a terrifying talent for killing enemies across levels. Although space talent is common in the genius battlefield, to the outside world, it is definitely synonymous with genius. He would think that it is normal for Jia Yan's clone to be able to kill enemies beyond the level. After all, he can only be regarded as a second-level ordinary talent. Level, incomparable to any sub-level in the genius battlefield. Even an ordinary venerable in the genius battlefield can cross the level and kill him. So he was afraid. Oh, you have a good vision. Seeing that he was trying to escape, Jia Yan sneered indifferently. The clone has recently received a lot of energy from the real body, and now is the time to show off its fighting power. He stepped into subspace and came to a warship that was still firing at him. It is impossible for the opponent's artillery fire to hit Jia Yan, because Jia Yan can enter the subspace before that. Compared with the battleship seen in Genius Battlefield, this Kaiming family's battleship is like a toy. Of course, the clone's strength is not as good as the real body, and it cannot kill all the opponents in an instant. But it's almost the same. Jia Yan stepped into the subspace again, and then appeared outside battleships. His brainwave power was lightly activated, and the creatures inside would be completely extinct. How is that possible? It's just that he is a subspace genius, but what kind of brainwave power does he have? Even the venerable will die directly if he is touched by his brainwave power. The fleeing Kaiming family's second pass expert was so overwhelmed when he saw Jia Yan behind him that he was almost frightened out of his wits. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1059. A venerable person could easily kill another venerable person with one blow. Such a performance made this Kaiming family creature simply unbelievable. Let's go. This is definitely a super genius who can kill enemies at every level. He didn't dare to stay and quickly drove the battleship to escape. But an even more unbelievable scene appeared. The battleships and powerful creatures on the left and right died much faster than imagined under the attack of the subspace genius. He had just flown less than 10,000 kilometers, and the fleet behind him was completely wiped out, and no one survived. Since this friend of the Kaiming family has come to meet you, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Please stay with me. The Kaiming family creature heard a voice ringing in his ears, and then he turned his head in shock. Inside his battleship, he saw an extremely small creature taking a faint step out of the subspace. This creature has 2 feet and 2 hands, and looks very similar to the main races of the Great Empire in Orion's arms. My friend, I am a junior high-level member of the Chiming family. I wonder if you have made a mistake somewhere, causing us to have a misunderstanding. My family and I welcome distinguished guests like you. The powerful person from the second level of the Chiming family quickly nodded and bowed in great respect to the seemingly small creature. Oh, I don't remember any misunderstanding. I only know that I killed a young man from your Chiming family before, and then you commanded the fleet to arrest me. Isn't that an arrest? The character who appeared was, of course, Jia Yan's clone. At this time, he was plucking his ears rather jokingly and asked. Of course it's not an arrest. I just wanted to come here to thank you for educating my son. I have long disliked that traitor. Your Excellency helped me kill him, which can be considered a favor to me. I thank you. You were too late, how could I come here to arrest you? A junior member of the Chiming family is very eloquent, and he will do whatever Jia Yan says. With such a face, even Jia Yan was dumbfounded for a moment. It turns out that Qi Minghong is your son, and you two don't look alike. Yes, your Excellency is right. I have long wanted to ask my mother-in-law if she cheated on me. I will ask when I get back this time. The other party's face is undoubtedly the thickest among all the creatures Jia Yan has ever seen. Oh, this is a junior friend of the Chiming family, let's not talk nonsense. Jia Yan finally didn't want to talk to him anymore. Tell me, how much do your Chiming family know about the treasure on that star? Jia Yan pointed to the asteroid not far away. Well, did you come here originally for the merchant's treasure star? Our Chiming family has been having headaches for it for thousands of years, but we can't find a way to enter it. If we enter by force, maybe it will be entirely in the subspace. If you disintegrate yourself there, then the gains outweigh the losses. So I don't know much about it. After hearing Jia Yan's words, the other party immediately understood that Jia Yan actually came for the treasure of the merchant family thousands of years ago. Back then, the merchant family, the Chiming family and another big family were all powerful families in this place with a lot of interstellar matter. However, because they offended a strong man from the outer star field, the entire family was destroyed. The biggest black hand that destroyed the merchant family was the Chiming family. With the help of the powerful people behind the scenes, they swallowed up the entire merchant family, but this last treasure place could not be opened. I see, then there's no use keeping you. Seeing that the other party also didn't understand the treasure, Jia Yan nodded lightly. After changing the subject, he lunged forward and punched the creature on the forehead. Originally, with the opponent's strength, he would not be killed by Jia Yan's clone in one blow, but now he is in fear. In addition, Jia Yan used the power of the black hole at the moment of the attack, making his body completely stunned. And then succeeded. Puff. This time, the senior officials of the Guan-level Chiming family actually died with their heads broken. Humph, I didn't ask anything about the treasure. Jia Yan looked at the corpse of a senior member of the Chiming family, and then there was a hint of strange coldness in his eyes. To be honest, he didn't actually trust the old monster at the moment. Although he is a subspace creature, the clone is not his real body after all. If there is any mechanism in the treasure place, the clone will be in danger later. So at this time, he destroyed the Chiming family fleet, but left Guanji to find out. But I didn't get much information at all. On that treasure star, the old monster encountered a crisis. You are so bold, you actually dare to come and invade the land of my Chiming family. 2 venerable level creatures surrounded the old monster and attacked quickly. Although the old monster resembled the venerable, his actual strength was not at all as strong as the venerable. After 1 or 2 blows, he was seriously injured and almost teetering on the verge of death. Sir, Save me. Suddenly, the old monster shouted in a certain direction of the starry sky. The two venerables who attacked him were startled, and then they quickly looked at the starry sky above their heads with vigilance. As venerables, they could also see the battle going on in the starry sky, but as they were not strong enough, they had no idea what the outcome would be. Otherwise, if they saw that the Kyming family fleet was destroyed, they might have escaped long ago. Now, when I suddenly heard that the old monster that had rushed into the star body was shouting like this, I was immediately frightened and did not dare to attack. But when I looked up, there was no strong person coming from the sky. Haha, this old guy actually used lies to scare us. This won't change the outcome that you will die. That's right, don't say you don't have anyone to rescue him. Even if you do, he must have died in that battle in the starry sky. Our Kyming family fleet has been dispatched, so there is no way he could have survived. Both sages laughed loudly. Really? I'm still alive and well. A faint voice reached the ears of the two venerable creatures. Who? Both of them were shocked and quickly turned around to look around. But they didn't see anyone coming at all. Before that, the head of a venerable exploded. Who and so? The other venerable's demeanor suddenly changed, and then he looked around, trying to see who the attacker was. But he couldn't see the person coming at all. In an instant, he felt his head bulging open. The last seen in his eyes was that of the old monster, who was also stunned and said respectfully to a certain place in the air, "Sir, who is the Lord?" With such regrets on his deathbed, this venerable man also exploded his head and died. The old monster was shocked. Because he felt that Jia Yan, the same venerable level creature, was much beyond his expectation. It was much more powerful than the ordinary venerables in the outside world. This Lord Jia Yan is indeed extremely mysterious. He is mysterious in the arms of Orion, and his strength is unfathomable. I thought before that I could see the bottom line of his strength when I reached the starlight domain, but now I see, come on, I actually don't understand it even more. The old monster was shocked to feel that Jia Yan's strength seemed to be that of a venerable, but not unlike it, and then he looked at the two dead venerables. Either one of these two great venerables could easily crush him, but in front of Jia Yan, he died without being able to see anyone. Okay, now that the problem has been solved, there will be no more pursuers from the Kyming family for the time being. You should hurry up and see how to open the treasure place. Jia Yan looked at the old monster. He felt that this old guy was indeed scared by him. When he entered the so-called treasure land later, he would at least be afraid of him if he wanted to do anything. Okay. Without the interruption, the old monster checked more carefully. Of course, there are other creatures in this starry sky, such as working spaceships and ordinary living creatures on the stars. But after they saw the battle in the starry sky and the terrifying fluctuations on the stars, they all wisely did not dare to care about this matter. In short, when gods fight and mortals suffer, similar things happen a lot naturally. Ordinary creatures gradually do not dare to get involved in the battles of strong people, especially the Orion arm external creatures. Therefore, there was no interruption between Jia Yan and the old monster's progress, and the speed was faster. Finally, after the old monster combined his increasingly brighter memories, the two of them arrived at a 5,000-meter peak in the treasure planet. It is an extremely rare thing to have a 5,000-meter high mountain peak within this 100-kilometer diameter asteroid. I remember, the bookstore is here. After the old monster saw this mountain peak, his expression suddenly showed ecstasy. Then, under Jia Yan's gaze, he cut a scar on his claw and blood dripped from it. Just after the blood dripped, the entire mountain peak shook. "Sir, the opening of this treasure requires the blood of my family, and it must be extremely pure blood. This is why the Kyming family creatures cannot open my family's treasure," the old monster explained to Jia Yan behind him. The entire mountain peak shook for several minutes. Under Jia Yan's gaze, The mountain peak slowly began to crack, revealing a terrifying gap inside that resembled a twisted land. This kind of gap is familiar to Jiayan. It is a gap that is forcibly torn open in the subspace. Sir, let's go in. Inside is the place of my family's treasures. When the shaking completely stopped, the old monster smiled and said to Jiayan. Okay, Jiayan didn't hesitate. He came to this starlight realm just for the essence and blood. At this juncture, how could he give up? The old monster was in front, Jiayan was behind, and they both stepped into the space of the twisted land together. Miraculously, when they stepped onto this space, the entire twisted space twisted and twisted, causing their bodies to shatter as if they were being torn apart. After a while, their figures disappeared. And not long after their news, in the starry sky, warships arrived one after another. Husband, you died miserably. Don't worry, I will avenge you. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1060. In the land of double livable stars, there are two people from the Kaiming family of the second level, one of whom is the male second level who was killed by Jiayan before. And the other one is his wife. Now this female Kaiming family creature almost went crazy after receiving the news that her husband had died in battle on the planet. She didn't care if her son died before. Just like her husband said, there are dozens or hundreds of sons in total, and it doesn't matter if one of them dies. But my husband is different. In the life of a strong creature, there is usually only one partner, and their lifespan is long. The days together are extremely long, and the partner will never be forgotten after his death. The same is true for this female enlightened creature. She has been with her husband for a long time and it has become a part of her life. How dare someone kill her husband? She cannot forgive this kind of thing. Dad, my husband was killed. Now I am going to find that person. Maybe I will die too. You must avenge me and my husband. This female creature left a message with a being from a distant place in the battleship, and then closed the communication. Even if I die, I have to wait until my father comes over. The murderer can't escape. The panic and ferocity in her eyes could not be concealed. Jiayan still doesn't know that a widow in the outside world is about to avenge her husband. At this moment, he is located in the rotating subspace, constantly drifting with the flow. The subspace is a place like Jiayan's lair. He could have easily stabilized his body, but in order not to disturb the opening of the treasure land, he did not do so. It's been a long time since Jiayan could twist himself in any space at will, and Jiayan still feels a little novel. Compared to Jiayan's calmness, the old monster was different. How had he ever entered the subspace in his life? Such a scene almost made him dizzy, and he even thought he was about to die. Ah, sir, we won't die. Don't worry, this space distortion is far from fatal. Jiayan shook his head. Of course, what the old monster saw now was a twisted head shaking his head, which made him even more frightened. Fortunately, this feeling did not last long. In the distortion, Jiayan saw a piece of flat land placed in the subspace appearing in front of him. It was also stabilized with space stones. The old monster's family was indeed very financially strong. When Jiayan saw the flat land, he understood that this treasure place might really be a big treasure. And the space stone? Jiayan looked greedily at the few space stones that stabilized the space. Even his real body needed this kind of space stone, let alone the clone. If there were a few pieces to help stabilize the artificial black hole, his clone would dare to fight head-on with a half-star strong man. Sir, this is the place where my family's treasure is. Let's go there. The old monster was extremely happy when he saw the scenery in front of him. Jiayan looked at him, then with a vague glint in his eyes, he followed the old monster forward. To be honest, he still doesn't really believe in this old monster, but all the conspiracies are nothing compared to his strength. Jia Yan is so powerful that in his eyes, the opponent is like a pebble that can be easily crushed. If he dares to have any delusions, then only death is waiting for him. The two powerful men headed towards the flat land. Originally, the distortion of space this time was to open up a safe passage to the flat ground for the visitors, so their flight was very smooth. When we arrived at the platform, the surrounding distortion had slowly returned to normal space. Jia Yan and the old monster stood on the platform. Then the old monster was almost shocked. The ancestors of my family are indeed powerful. They were able to create such a space. His sigh was not unreasonable, even Jia Yan felt vaguely admired. This platform is a full 20 kilometers in size, which is about the same size as the Edessa aircraft in his real body. The Edessa is not a rare sight in the center of the genius battlefield. But it has a different meaning when placed in the starlight territory. You must know that the level of civilization and the strength of the strong here cannot be compared with places such as the genius battlefield. Even compared with the northern starfield, it is not even close. It can be seen that in this kind of starfield to build a platform like this in this space, the financial resources and materials required are terrifying. Okay, let's go over and take a look. Jia Yan nodded, agreeing with the old monster's words. The two walked forward together, and then they came to the building on the platform. There is no defense here, sir. Let's take a look. This is the last treasure of my family. After the old monster saw the scenery in the building, the age in his expression became more obvious. The two walked into the building and saw a pile of supplies. This is the Star Core mine. There are so many. The old monster looked at the scene in front of him in shock, and then looked at the other side, where a piece of grass liquid and other things were neatly arranged. This is the nutrient solution that our family started to operate back then. The quantity is so huge that even if we sell it, it would be enough to exchange for 1 or 2 planets. The old monster looked at the supplies and treasures, and occasionally he could see the look of nostalgia in his eyes. He had seen some of these things before. It's just that thousands of years have passed, and the little monster back then has become the old monster now. Jia Yan just watched casually along the way. He was also a little moved by the supplies around him, but it was not to the extent that it made him break his promise. After all, in Mommy's opinion, the supplies here are not of high quality, and Jia Yan will not make him break his promise just for them. Okay, these things will be yours in the future. Now look where the blood essence is. Jia Yan interrupted the old monster's words lightly. Let me take a look. The old monster looked around, then led Jia Yan forward. It should be here. Arriving in front of a room door, the old monster's dozens of meters huge body squeezed out another trace of blood. The door opens, revealing the space inside. In this room, there are several items placed. In Jia Yan's opinion, they are all treasures. Of course, they have no great effect on his true body. There was only one difference. The moment the door opened, his gaze shifted. Is this blood essence? Such a thing is just a diluted version. Jia Yan looked at the 20-centimeter tube of colorful liquid located at the innermost level of the room, almost dazzled and confused. The surface of the multicolored liquid is almost dense, but its actual color may not be multicolored, but the feeling of multicolor is revealed within the dense mist. The dense clouds on its surface are constantly moving, as if there is life. Sir, that is blood essence. I saw it once before. Seeing that Jia Yan was almost lost in the 5 colors, the old monster let out a long sigh and said to Jia Yan. Ah, very good. Jia Yan nodded. Sir, I'll go over and get it right now. The old monster smiled at Jia Yan, and then stepped forward. Etc. Jia Yan suddenly spoke up and stopped him. At the same time, a terrifying brainwave power directly controlled the old monster's body. Huh? Sir, what do you mean? The old monster seemed extremely confused. He turned his head and looked at Jia Yan with some difficulty. Old monster, I understand your thoughts very well. Jia Yan shook his head and sighed at the same time. There is a separation device in this room. If you want to enter, just separate the room from the platform, right? Jia Yan looked at the old monster with a serious look. The old monster was silent for a while, then nodded, yes, I am tired. Being with the family's treasure forever is the most suitable option. Old monster, do you think that there are really no juniors of your family in this star field? You still have decades to live. I think you might as well live well. It is most appropriate to find these juniors and give them some family benefits. Jia Yan shook his head and said to him, Sir, you are saying this because you want blood and essence now. When I give up this idea and tell you the mechanism of the room, you will kill me, the old monster said calmly. Wrong. Unexpectedly, Jia Yan actually shook his head. You don't need to tell me anything, I can enter this room and get the blood essence. Even if you enter the room, leave the room, and I also have a way to get blood essence. Don't forget, I am also a space-talented creature. The old monster became even more silent. Sir, why did you stop me from dying? I have seen several old creatures before, and their end was very sad. I just don't want to see another one with a tragic end. There was a hint of memory in Jia Yan's words. He has seen too many creatures of light and shadow, as well as the old monsters in the chaotic star field, and many starry sky creatures who tried their best to survive longer. Okay, sir, I don't want to die anymore. In the next few decades, I will look for the family's descendants, the old monster nodded. A moment later, Jia Yan entered the room in person and got the colorful blood essence test tube. Taking it into his hand, Jia Yan's clone was shocked. A terrible absorption feeling was transmitted from the real body through the dark passage, as if this thing was a rare and great tonic for the real body. It actually works for me, it's great. Even though a lot of time was wasted, Jia Yan felt that this trip was not in vain. Sir, let's go out. When I need it in the future, I'll come back to get the supplies inside, the old monster said to Jia Yan. Since Jia Yan said he would not kill him, he was not worried, because with Jia Yan's strength, it would be easy to kill him. Okay, but I want to take away 2 of the space stones outside. Don't worry, I will rearrange them. Your treasure place will not have any hidden dangers of being damaged by subspace. Jia Yan turned around and said. Okay, as long as you can guarantee it, the old monster nodded directly. Jia Yan smiled. The space stone is also obtained, and the clone's combat power is further improved. As for stabilizing the treasure platform space, it is certainly a piece of cake for his space knowledge. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1061. Within the starry sky, there are many areas divided into areas. Originally, the formation of the universe was divided into large and small regions. If there were no intelligent creatures, this division would naturally be meaningless. However, with the birth of intelligent creatures and even strong men, regions, the division between them has become a reason for fighting, even war. My daughter is actually going to fight a strong man. And that strong man has actually killed the son-in-law of my Kaiming family. This is so disrespectful to my Kaiming family. Come, prepare the battleship, I want to go over and see for myself who dares to disturb my Kaiming family. A creature with a long breath slowly flew up on a gas planet. He is a creature that looks different from ordinary creatures in the universe. Not only is the energy in his body extremely terrifying, but what is even more terrifying is that the surface of his body is almost all gaseous, and it seems that the structure itself is different from ordinary creatures. He ended the communication with his subordinate on the other side of the communicator, and then looked at the 2 habitable stars hundreds of millions of kilometers away. Humph, this daughter is just one of my more than 200 children. It doesn't matter if she dies. But if the so-called outsider dares to attack my Kaiming family, then I can't bear it. The gas in his body swelled, and the next moment he disappeared from the same place. Hundreds of kilometers away, his figure reappeared. A zone of interstellar material beyond the land of two habitable stars. There are many creatures living on that treasure planet. At this moment, all the creatures on the planet are trembling. Tell me where the creature that attacked my Kaiming family went. If you don't tell me, I will kill them now. No one here can escape. A creature whose whole body was almost enveloped in gas made an extremely sharp female voice and shouted angrily at a large group of creatures. Below her were almost every creature on the treasure planet. A total of approximately 30,000 to 50,000 creatures were gathered together in a square on the star under the supervision of several venerable beings. My lord, we really don't know. A high-level creature from Treasure Planet was just about to cry out for injustice, but was bombarded by a burst of energy. He was simply unable to resist the high-level strength of Sean Kong, so he died like this. If you say you don't know, the only thing you can do is die. Then the powerful people from the outside world will disappear into your planet. How could you not know? I will give you 3 minutes. If you don't tell me any useful information, you will all die. The female voice was so arrogant that it almost suffocated every creature in the square. But in fact, they really don't know anything. The previous battle happened so suddenly that few of them could react. Even if 2 of the celestial beings at the venerable level received orders from the Kaiming family, they went to hunt down an old creature who was suspected to have reached the level of venerable. Others still don't know what happened. Then a scene that shocked them happened. The Kaiming family fleet fighting in space was destroyed, and the 2 sages who were chasing the old monster also died. They didn't have time to hide from those 2 guys, so how could they dare to explore each other's whereabouts? We really don't know. Please forgive me, madam. An old monster who couldn't bear it anymore knelt down and almost begged loudly for mercy. He did not beg for mercy for himself, but for the little grandson beside him. Humph, I said, what you don't know is death. The female voice was just about to blast out the brainwave power, but at this moment, she and several venerables suddenly felt a strange space creeping. Huh? The space is distorted. Madam, I have long heard that there is a treasure on this planet that dates back thousands of years, and that it is hidden in the subspace. Could it be that the outsider came for this treasure? A distinguished man turned his head very quickly. Level, seemed to have thought of something, and said to the gas-like female monster. Treasure. The gas-like female creature paused, and then she also found the legendary memory about this treasure star from her long life memory. She knew more than this subordinate. She even searched for this treasure star for a long time because of this legend, but she could not enter the space gate. Later, she thought that this treasure planet was her family's territory, and the treasure would never escape if placed here, so she didn't care about it. But now it sounds like the outsider actually came for the treasure of Treasure Star? Humph, what kind of treasure actually caused my husband's death? Even if he gets the treasure, he will die. Let's go there quickly. The female creature was almost jealous. She killed her husband, whom she had been in love with for hundreds of years, for some so-called treasure. She couldn't let go of such a thing. Several great sages and a warrior named Kaiming family suddenly flew towards the place where the shock came from. In that square, the lives of tens of thousands of weak residents were saved. Let's go quickly. There will definitely be another battle between strong men later. If we are affected, we will definitely die. There are many people in the square who are familiar with the battle between strong men. After all, peace is not always peaceful in the Kaiming family territory. Often, in wars, the weak ones die. Now this group of creatures have reacted and rushed to their homes or commercial spaceships one by one, and fled towards the outside world. And the female Kaiming family creature will naturally not care about these ant-like creatures. The oscillations in the space were wave after wave, becoming more and more terrifying. He's coming out, at that mountain peak. A noble-level warrior from the Kaiming family looked at the tallest mountain on the entire treasure star, and then his expression became slightly solemn. The other major warriors also had similar expressions, and even the female creature at that level had the same expression. You don't need to be nervous. As long as we can delay this existence for a while, my father will be here soon. By then, the opponent will definitely be dead. The female creature was extremely nervous when she saw all the monsters around her. After all, the outsider creature killed her husband, and he was also a sub-level existence. Now that he was fighting, he might also be slaughtered by him. So she comforted people and told those around her that her father was about to arrive. The old master is actually coming? That's great. He is a half-star, and he is absolutely powerful among half-stars. With him here, the intruder will never be able to escape. Yes, we don't need to defeat each other, as long as we wait until the old patriarch comes, it is enough. The demeanor of each of the Kaiming family warriors suddenly perked up. And the vibrations in that space became more and more intense. Surrounded by hundreds of Kaiming family warriors flying in the sky, the vibrations on the mountain peak became more and more intense. Boom boom boom. It seems that some indescribable terrifying existence is about to be teleported from the center of the twisted mountain peak. This scene made the surrounding soldiers look extremely nervous. Finally, the distortion of the mountain peak reached its peak, and then there was a gap in the subspace that had been twisted for a long time in the center. Two large creatures, one large and one small, passed through the twisted place and flew out of the gap in the subspace. Coming. Attack. That female gaseous creature certainly understands the tactic of taking the lead. Seeing that the other party has just emerged from the subspace, she does not think about what treasure the other party has obtained. In her opinion, nothing is more important than avenging her husband. Even if it was to issue an attack order. She wanted to take advantage of the fact that the opponent had just emerged from the subspace and might not have recovered from the distortion, so she could take the opportunity to kill the opponent directly. Huh? A sneak attack. Just as a group of Kaiming family creatures were exerting all their strength to attack the twisted land, a slight sound sounded in the center of the twisted land. What surprised all the Kaiming family warriors. Among the large and small creatures that appeared, they always thought that the one with powerful combat power was the huge one, but in fact, it was the smaller one who made the sound. After the sound appeared, he just became clear from the subspace body and raised his arm lightly. Wave. A feeling that made the surrounding creatures feel as if their hearts were being suddenly bombarded surged from their hearts. Even the second-level female creature's heart almost slowed down by half a beat at this moment. Each of their attacks seemed to have lost the power to support them, and then they were all interrupted. This is, a palm, controlling power. After the female creature felt this power, her heart was shaken, and she was almost despairing. Because she felt that the opponent's impact was actually using the legendary power to control. This kind of power can only be mastered by an absolute powerhouse who has reached the semi-star level. And in her Kaiming family, only her father, the current head of the Kaiming family, has mastered this kind of power. The other party is a strong man with control power, so it is impossible for them to win. None of the Kaiming family warriors here, including her, can escape. It was impossible to even wait until her father arrived, because of the opponent's strength, it only took one or two blows to wipe them out. No, even if I die, I must avenge my husband. Since it is impossible to defeat him, then I will leave a family mark on him. He will not be able to escape the family's tracking for hundreds of light years. The female creature was almost filled with rage. The moment she saw the creature appearing in the twisted land, she understood that her group of people would not even be able to stop it for a while. Oh, what a big welcome, old monster, don't you think so? The creature who had just lowered his arms was almost slightly startled when he saw so many venerables from the outside world, including even a powerful person from the second level, surrounded by a large formation on the mountain peak. Of course, he didn't have the slightest thought of worry. This seemingly small creature is naturally the humanoid clone of Jiayan. That's right, Lord Jiayan, it's such a big battle. The old monster nodded, not seeming to be afraid. Murderer, die. When the female secondary creature saw Jiayan, she understood that he was definitely the murderer of her husband. After all, Jiayan had extremely strong killing intent, and even a trace of her husband's breath remained. She roared and attacked Jiayan and the old monster again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1062. Quick, quick, quick. Although I don't care about that daughter, she is my daughter after all. If she dies in the hands of that powerful foreigner, it will definitely be a stain on me for the rest of my life. I will be laughed at by several major families around me. Above the starry sky, a gaseous creature driving some kind of super-fast ship moved forward quickly. He felt a little anxious. But no matter how anxious he is, the battleship will fly at that speed. And just as he hurriedly hurried, finally a few hours passed, and when the gaseous creature arrived around the two habitable stars, he stepped out of the battleship in one step. The gaseous body flashed, and then appeared outside a trace of the battle. The aura of my son-in-law is indeed that of death. The gaseous creature let out a long sigh, and then his expression condensed. He looked at the asteroid not far away. Treasure star? The star I snatched from that person back then, but I didn't get any stars. Could it be that the other party came because of this star? This gas-like creature moved quickly and arrived at the treasure star. But this planet has long been deserted. There are no residents or any living creatures. And as soon as he flew into the star, he felt that outside the highest mountain peak of the star, a bunch of Kaiming family warriors, both blood-related and not blood-related, all died there. Daughter. The gaseous man also saw a dead creature that looked very similar to him, so he immediately flew forward. But it was too late. The creature that looked similar to him actually had its head exploded, and it was too dead to die. You bastard! Kill my daughter and son-in-law. This is an unworthy hatred. The gaseous creature was almost furious. But after getting angry, he calmed down again. After all, he was a strong man, and he had so many children that he had forgotten how many he had. Now after getting angry, he felt the strength of the other party. This actually killed him by bombarding him with all his brainwave power in a short period of time. Even if it were me, that's the extent of it. If I really meet him, it might be a big battle. After seeing the traces of the battle, this gaseous creature actually felt lucky in his heart. He is too old and no longer wants to fight to the death. However, my daughter has blessed him with the family mark. I can feel that the other party is leaving my Kaiming family's territory very quickly. The gaseous creature thought for a long time and decided that it couldn't just let him go. With his daughter's mark and video records, he quickly locked in the identity of the murderer. What? It's just a creature from Orion's arm. Our dignified Kaiming family was actually killed by a strong man from Orion's arm. It will definitely be a great shame to tell this. After the gaseous creature understood the identity of the other party, even though he understood that the murderer was not weaker than him, his face turned red for a while. The strength of the Orion arm creature is almost a joke in the Starlight realm. This matter has been spread out. No matter how much he says that the opponent is powerful, his Kaiming family is destined to be the object of ridicule from the surrounding families in the future. Orion arm. Orion arm. The gaseous creature almost gritted its teeth at this term. Pass it on to me. Our Kaiming family did not agree to the conditions of the biochemical starfield force, but directly agreed. Even if it leads to a wolf entering the house, I have to do it. This gaseous semi-star creature actually made such a conversation, and even involved the biochemical star field forces that the Orion arm was vigorously dealing with. At this time, a force that can be considered a big family in the starlight territory has turned to the forces in the biochemical star territory. It is unknown what effect it will have on the war within the Orion arm. In short, Jia Yan still doesn't understand that a battle he fought in the northwest corner of the starlight territory can actually affect the situation on the entire front. Of course, what he didn't understand even more was that if the northwest corner of the starlight domain was extended outwards, then the outside world would be the edge of the biological star domain. Haha, the old monster actually went to look for his family's juniors. I don't know if I will have a chance to see him again in this life. On the Great Empire's superfast ship, Jia Yan sat cross-legged in the largely empty cabin, looking at the surrounding scenery and letting out a long sigh. The old monster has seen through the mortal world. Jia Yan already had a vague feeling that the two parties would never have the chance to meet again in this life. But this trip to the Starlight Realm, I have achieved my goal. The essence and blood of Senior Evolution Beast. Jia Yan's eyes were dark, and then he picked up a colorful test tube from his side. The surface of this test tube is covered with mist, and it hardly looks like a scene that should be seen in the human world. Even if it is held in the hands of the clone like this, the real body far away in the genius battlefield can still feel the deep desire for the items in the test tube deep in the heart. This thing seems to be very attractive to Jia Yan's current real body. If combined with the huge essence and blood bank of my predecessors, will my true body and strength be greatly improved? What's more, I still have several enhancement treasures that I have preserved to this day. Jia Yan thought about the improvement treasures he had kept for a long time. There were 2 items snatched from the hands of star-level beings. Together with this blood essence, they might be able to greatly improve his strength. But I shouldn't be able to use those 2 treasures right now. It's estimated that the real blood essence level is not much different from that of the senior transformation beast. Now the only ones I can use are the diluted version of the blood essence and the blood essence of the inherited senior. Jia Yan analyzed the preparations he could make for improvement now, and then nodded confidently. Even if several methods could not be used, there were still 2 treasures he could use to improve his body. What has been improved recently is soft power, such as brainwave power, combat skills, etc. Although this is also of great help to Jia Yan's real body, the actual physical body has not improved much. The 2 items in his hand now, maybe it can give him a certain improvement in physical strength. This physical improvement will be the last improvement before advancing to the star level. Even after the improvement, it will not take long for you to sprint directly to the star level with the appropriate materials, so this time of improvement, what a leap in strength it can bring to me is really something worth looking forward to. The superfast ship was extremely fast. In addition, Jia Yan was familiar with the star map when he arrived and avoided several places where he needed to slow down on the way. The battleship did not slow down all the way, so that the original 3-month journey only took 2 months later. He returned to the borderland between the Starlight Domain and the Orion Arm. Timed out? Then you have to pay a certain fee according to the requirements of my Hard Light Domain. At the border, Jia Yan reluctantly paid the detention fee. Fortunately, he was a strong man and did not need to go to jail. Otherwise, he would have had no choice but to leave the border. Not long after, Jia Yan boarded the superfast ship and flew into the gap between the Orion Arm and the Starlight Domain. What? That Jia Yan from the Orion Arm has already entered the gap? Huh, he can escape quickly. Not long after he left, 2 half-star beings came to the border management building. Under the watchful eyes of a group of workers, they looked at the gap for a long time before giving up and shaking their heads. Then what is Jia Yan's background? He actually asked 2.5-star level beings to come and arrest him. Several staff members who had handled documents for Jia Yan were almost stunned at this moment. Within Orion's arms, Jia Yan, who had just passed through the gap, was once again interrogated by the Orion arm. Fortunately, his reputation in the Orion arm was completely different from that in the Starlight domain. After seeing his true face, almost every staff member saluted him respectfully. Then let go. This trip to the Starlight realm has gone smoothly. Now, it's time for me to return. Jia Yan returned to Orion's arms, feeling the familiar feeling and the familiar smell of energy. It almost made him drunk. Then, unexpectedly, Jia Yan received a communication. Huh? From Earth. Jia Yan was slightly startled. He thought it was another emergency situation of Kao Wo's defense line. After all, he had been away for almost half a year. He thought that even if the fragile Kao Wo defense line collapsed for a small amount, it would not be a strange thing. Unexpectedly, the first communication from the bookstore came from the Earth. Because the Earth is online with the Great Empire, the communication equipment is connected to the Great Empire and can communicate to a certain extent within the entire Orion arm. Previously, it was within the solar system at most. What, the Earth, under the instigation of the Great Empire, sent a fleet to support Kao Wo's defense. And there was Kikai in the fleet. When Jia Yan saw the content of the communication, he was so anxious that he didn't spit out blood. He keeps wandering around in Orion's arms. Why? Isn't it just to prevent the Earth civilization from being affected by the flames of war? But he didn't expect that during the 6 months since he left, the Earth had taken some medicine and actually agreed to the Great Empire to send troops to Kao Wo's defense line. Jia Yan almost wanted to pull out the high-level people on Earth who made the decision and pull out their skin. It shouldn't be. Without my permission on Earth, no one can arrange for the Jia family to go to war, especially little Kikai. She has no one to direct her. How could she go to war? Jia Yan thought about it for a long time, and the only reason was that someone in the Jia family agreed to this matter. Otherwise, not to mention the higher UPS on Earth, not even Jia Yan would be able to order the Jia family to participate in the war. Humph, the Great Empire really tricked me. Jia Yan understands that the Great Empire must understand that the current Jia Yan is careless about the Kao self-defense line because his Earth civilization does not have much conflict of interest in the Kao self-defense line, but now it has brought down an Earth fleet, and inside now that there is a junior member of the Jia family who cares most about him, his attitude cannot be the same. This was a clear plan, and Jia Yan had to suffer this loss. Moreover, Jia Yan had originally agreed to help Kao Wo defense line, and joining the front was a decision made by the Earth. Jia Yan found that he had no reason to be angry. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1063. A young girl in her teenage years was inside a huge battleship, looking at the starry sky in front of her. Miss Kikai, you are still the same as when we last met. No, you should be more beautiful. A man walked out of the battleship gate behind her. When he saw the girl, his eyes lit up and he complimented her. Haha, His Highness the Seventh Prince is really good at talking. The little girl nodded to him in unfamiliar official language, and then looked at the scenery outside the window. Her name is extremely well known in this battleship, and even in the huge fleet of thousands of battleships surrounding the battleship. Because she is the most important person in the fleet on this trip, an important person who cannot die even if the entire fleet is destroyed or the fifth prince of the empire dies. The strongest protector of Earth civilization, His Excellency Jia Yan's niece Jia Qi. Compared with the royal family of the Great Empire, the Jia family of the Earth civilization can be said to have a small population. Jia Qi is the closest niece to the rumored strongman Jia Yan, and her status is evident. The word lie has never been found in this prince's dictionary. Your beauty is flawless in my eyes. In addition, it is an honor for our great empire that Miss Jiakai can be invited to join our Kawu self-defense line camp, and it is also an honor for our Ka Chi. It's an honor to have no defense against me. The prince looked about the same age as Jiakai, but as a member of a large empire, he was probably over 100 years old. He approached Jia and wanted to hold the fair little hand of the girl opposite him who, in his opinion, was full of attractiveness. His heart was filled with passion, not only because Jiakai was attractive in his eyes, but also because of Jiakai's family background. Although these 5 princes are the 5th princes of the great empire, they actually have no inheritance rights at all. As a newly rising upstart in the Orion arm, the Jia family on Earth even has Jia Yan, who is known as the strongest person in the Orion arm. If he can compete with these, if something happens to a girl with a very high status in the Jia family, his status in the empire will skyrocket in the future. Even his father will look down upon him. But Jia seemed unmoved at all. When he raised his hand, he moved away. In her heart, Jia scolded the 5th prince of the great empire who was extremely attentive to her along the way, almost every day. Is she still a 17-year-old girl? A 100-year-old man actually comes here to show your courtesy. You are older than my grandfather, but you are so embarrassed. She felt sick, and at the same time thought of Jia Yan. If her uncle was here, he would definitely make this guy look good. Of course, the 2 parties were important figures in international diplomatic relations, and Jia couldn't be too embarrassed. Unexpectedly, the 5th prince was so shameless and diligent all the way, which almost made Jia feel sick. If I had known better, I wouldn't have agreed to this time. Jia regretted it. You must know that what happened this time actually had nothing to do with her family. It was purely because she wanted to see the outside world. In fact, to put it bluntly, what happened this time was really an accident. Jia had previously been anonymous in a college and visited a newly developed mining star on Neptune because she was about to graduate from high school. As a result, diplomats from the great empire followed, beguiling her to fight on behalf of the Earth, and also said things like lip-destroying teeth and so on. Jia, a teenage girl, was fooled into being deceived without even thinking about it. In the end, I don't know if it was ready, but the Earth actually sent a fleet directly. Although it was only a small fleet of less than 100 ships, after welcoming Jiakai, it was known as the Earth's reinforcements, and several surrounding civilizations. Also, a total of about 3,000 ships were dispatched that had been prepared long ago, and a huge fleet came out. Jia was so dizzy that she forgot to tell her family, and then she and a group of classmates embarked on the starry road to Kaowo's defense line. For the girl who was out of the solar system for the first time, this was exciting and fun, but when she thought about the consequences, she became less and less afraid to tell her family. Miss Jiakai, the black hole over there is very interesting, isn't it? Our great empire has a sport that can fly close to the limit of the black hole. Next time I will show you the video. It's funny how a group of people are distorted by the suction force. The 5th prince was like a dogskin plaster, following Jia and constantly explaining everything around him. Although the 5th prince felt disgusted when he pursued Jia, he was a man who lived for 100 years after all. He had some insightful things to say, which was really attractive. Jia wanted to chase him away, but also wanted to hear what he had to say. The novelty is very contradictory. The fleet of 3,000 ships, some fast and some slow, has been flying in the universe for several months and has not yet reached Kaowo's defense line. In fact, the scenery in the universe is just like that after seeing too much. Jiakai saw too much scenery and had too many meetings with the heads of civilizations and countries passing by, and she couldn't help but become a little impatient. Your Excellency, the 5th prince, I don't know where my home is. Have you notified them now? I miss home. Jiakai asked the 5th prince very childishly one day. Of course, we greeted the Jia family after we rendezvoused with the 100 ships of justice in your civilization. They have been sending you messages recently, but you have refused to read them. Do you want to see them now? Okay. After Jia read several letters from home, she became more and more frightened. Although she was not afraid of what her mother said in the letter about beating her, she was a high-level person after all. With her mother's little strength, beating her was not as easy as tickling her. It's almost less, but just because she's not afraid of being beaten doesn't mean she's not afraid of being scolded. Now everyone in her family is asking her to go back, saying that her childish temper actually disrupted her uncle's efforts to separate the Earth from Kaowo's line of defense at great cost, and that she is a prodigal. As a result, Jiaqi was even more afraid to go back. If they all scold me, I will just go to Kaowu defense line and get some military merits, and then go back in glory, leaving them all disappointed. Jiaqi's personality is almost the same as Jiolin's back then. Now she is so impulsive that she doesn't even look like a girl. She made it clear that she was going to Kaowo defense line to earn military merit, which made her a little worried that Jiaqi would regret it. She was thinking about how to persuade the fifth prince of her great empire, and she was so happy that she almost jumped up. Jiaqi's attitude is becoming more and more inclined to join the war line of defense, and the Earth will be completely dragged in. Of course, their great empire does not care about the Earth's military power at all. What they care about is that after the Earth and even the Jia family are dragged in, that person will the powerful Lord Jia Yan be able to live alone. In this case, forget it if he can't pick up Jiaqi. The fifth prince has recently understood that Jiaqi, an earthling who is similar to a girl in their great empire of about 50 years old, is just like a child. As a result, he went ask, if you understand that Jiaqi is only 17 and is on the same level as a baby girl in their great empire, is he still embarrassed to pursue her? Without the harassment of the fifth prince who wanted to eat young grass, Jiaqi's life in the fleet became more colorful. Jiaqi, I didn't expect that you, the beauty of our school, are actually the eldest princess of the Jia family, the first family on Earth. It really scared me. Yes, by the way, Jiaqi, it's okay for us to talk to you like this now. After all, you are the Jia family that is respected by almost all civilizations in the entire Orion Arm. Jiaqi often went to the battleship where a group of her classmates lived. Now that the classmates in the battleship saw Jiaqi, who was originally anonymous, they were all frightened. You must know that when Jiaqi was in school, although she was already a famous school beauty, and there were rumors that her family background was extraordinary, no one could associate her Jia with the Jia family, the first family on Earth. After all, it was like the feeling of a myth coming alive to me. But during a small graduation trip, Jiaqi's identity was exposed, and then they were invited to join this huge temporary fleet. What's the point of following me? I'm still me. Whether it's Jiaqi in school or Jiaqi in Jia's family, it's still me. How you were before will be fine now. Jiaqi is very approachable in the eyes of her classmates, but she originally had a noble temperament. Now that she has the aura of the Jia family, she goes to Shiyuan. The classmates who originally dared to say a few words to her to joke, now no one dares to talk nonsense anymore. Why are you like this? Oh, forget it, I came here this time. In addition to seeing how you are doing, I also want to tell you that when we reach Kao's defense line in the future, don't run around. This battleship is following me. It's safe behind our flagship. As long as we get some military exploits, we can go back, which will be considered as promoting the name of our Earth civilization. Jiaqiu said it was a matter of course. In her opinion, she could also get some credit for her uncle's ability to easily show off his power. If she hadn't known that her own strength was not good enough, she would have wanted to fight in person to see how powerful the so-called external creatures were. Okay, Jiaqi, you can do whatever you want, we will listen to you. Now that the eldest princess of the Jia family has spoken out, no one, whether they are students or the teachers accompanying them, has anything to say to refute. What they didn't know was that on the other side of the starry sky, a man who looked like an earthling was controlling a battleship, smiling almost helplessly. Little Kikai, who do you look like? You actually have the same character as your mother. They are indeed mother and daughter. Jia Yan was in the superfast ship and tried to speed up the superfast ship. Although he knew that Jia Kai should be protected very safely when he went to Kao's defense line. After all, the great empire's plan was to pull the Earth into Kao's defense line, but he knew very well that Kao's defense line was definitely a dangerous place. If there are any sub-level creatures that really want to attack Jia Kai, no amount of battleship protection will be enough. If anything happens to little Kikai, or if even one of her hairs falls off, that would be a shame, and the Empire will have to pay the price for it. Jia Yan's eyes flashed. He is not an easy creature to get along with, but he will do anything for his family.